I'm Anky Damz. I am from London, but I study at the University of Kent, and I am a third-year drama student who is going to specialise in stand-up comedy, I guess.
Welcome to the first episode of the A to Z of Kent, where we explore a new topic or place around the county every single week. And for the letter A, what better place to begin than with the ABC podcast coming out of Canterbury?
The ABC podcast is a podcast that I came up with a couple of weeks ago, and so it stands for Anky's by association game. And then you're thinking, well, hold up, game doesn't start with a C, and then I tell you that the C is silent because the pirates are asleep, and it's like, oh, I get it, you're funny. So that's the premise. And so I'm tackling on Arthur Koestler's theory about incongruity in comedy, which is basically laughing at something because it doesn't fit, whatever. And then he took it a step further with by association, which is like the merging of two ideas at like a single point, the event L. So I'll use an example that I used. A man walks into a bar, ouch, it was an iron bar. And so obviously the punchline there is the meaning of the word bar, because bars are funny, because a bar is a social establishment and it's the physical object. So that intersecting point, the punchline, is what's funny, and that's what I wanted to take further. So what I do is I come up with a word and a guest comes up with a word, and then we just sit in a call for 3 hours trying to create a set. And then what I do with that, and then I go off in my own time, complete the set off, perform it to Stand Up Society at Kent. And then we get feedback, and then we come back, and then we reconvene and talk about what worked, what didn't work, why it didn't work, and how to improve it if I ever, use this set again in the future, which it seems like I'm working towards an Edinburgh Fringe show, so that should be fun.
You're gigging at the moment with an acoustic ukulele, and you're building a fan base with an acoustic ukulele.
That's true. What if
you don't want to be like,
yeah.
Like when Bob Dylan got out an electric guitar and everyone started booing. You don't want to be. You don't want that to happen.
I'm the new Bob Dylan. Oh God.
Now, comedy, as we know, is subjective. From slapstick and one-liners to dark humour and self-deprecation, humour comes in all shapes and sizes. So for Anky, what was the appeal of by association?
By association is a topic that was brought up in the early weeks of my stand-up comedy module, which is the whole reason why I'm even like considering, going like specializing into comedy, like taking it further after university. And it was just one of those things that our lecturer, Dr. Oliver Double, always bangs on about week on week. And I was like, you know what, my by association is really bad. Like I'm really bad at it. I was really bad at it. And I'm like, I want to improve it. How can I improve it in like a really fun manner? That's actually fun for me. And also just involves a lot of people's the people on the scheduled list to be on the podcast are pretty much, most of them are just my friends. And so I think and some of them like do stand-up comedy just in general as well. So I think it's nice to have that kind of balance between people that and kind of bounce off well, but also people who are serious about comedy. And so like the set will actually be, will have technical stand-up structure to it.
I don't know about you, but I love live comedy sets. I miss them so much. Recently, comedian James Acaster did a virtual set which shows just how much people are looking for new ways to share their comedic vision in this time. Who were some of Anky's biggest inspirations in the world of comedy?
Oh, this is going to sound awful, but one of my biggest inspirations is Ramesh Ranganathan. And it's awful because for anyone who doesn't know me, I am brown and I have a beard. So automatically, everyone just points at me and says, hey, look, it's Junior Ramesh Ranganathan. And then I go, I've not heard that one before. You're funny, man. And they go, thanks. And so, yeah, but his style has like, it's the way he carries himself on stage. I think it's the way he's really playful with his audience. It's the way he's really like audacious with what he's saying, but he's also making some sort of point. There's one of his Live at the Apollo gigs. He talks about like how he doesn't like his name in England is not. So obviously his middle name is Ramesh and his actual first name is Jonathan, and his parents changed his name so he could fit in. They changed a bit of his identity just so he could fit in Britain, basically. And like, I don't have that, but I understand it because I have friends who are like that as well, where it's like they change their first names just so they could have like a bit of British identity, so they don't feel like left out on like a piece of paper when they're going through interviews. And I think stuff like that is just and it's the way he frames serious topics like that to make it understandable to an audience that might not understand where he's coming from. So for example, my gig that I have on YouTube, it was like my first ever stand-up gig, and I talk about my disability because I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy from birth, and that's not something I ever really talk about on a normal one-to-one basis. Like, if I have a conversation with someone, I'm not just going to be like, oh, by the way, I have cerebral palsy. That's a bit awkward to just bring up. It's like, it's like telling people it's your birthday when it's your birthday. It's like, hey man, today's my birthday. Happy birthday, thanks. And it's like, hey, I have cerebral palsy. Congratulations, thanks. And so it gets a bit awkward. So I don't usually just spin it in conversation unless it's relevant. But like being able to talk about it on stage gives me a lot of. It fills me. Oh wow! I don't want to say it fills me with pleasure. That's a bit weird to say. It makes me feel nice. It feels like I'm actually giving back to the disability community while raising awareness and how like some disabilities are more visible than others, and we shouldn't just. And even if someone isn't like visibly disabled, doesn't mean that they're not disabled. So I like the fact that he can raise awareness of the situation in a funny manner, and I can also do the same and have it work.
And to close, if you're looking to start flexing your comedic muscles and start your own comedy podcast, here is the advice Anky has for you.
So some advice for anyone who wants to do a similar thing. The first thing is come up with a really, really unique concept, something that people will actually tune into your podcast for. I don't know if my idea is unique enough, but people seem to like it. So as long as so all you really need is to have some sort of unique. So I'll tell you about some other podcast. There's a podcast called Good Ones, where they do an interview with a comedian and they basically walk through like their best jokes. And then there's a podcast called Jokes with Mark Simmons, where Mark Simmons, who is also like a stand-up comedian, talks to another like guest comedian about jokes that they couldn't get working, and then they work together to work out how to get it better and stuff. And so really you just need to have your own like gimmick to your podcast. There needs to be a reason why you're there. I'd recommend for the first couple of episodes just get your friends on. There's nothing, especially if you're struggling to find people, you can message me. I'm a student, I have nothing going on, especially gigs and stuff. So but yeah, so it's also just being a nice kind of likable. You need to have a nice likable persona. I mean, you could do it mean if you want to be, you could be really mean if you want. You just got to find the audience for it. It's just also just about keep going. You have to keep going. I've got like 10 episodes planned before I even think about like stopping. So I'm just gonna keep it going no matter how popular or unpopular they are until I get to the 10th episode. I'm not gonna stop working on this, and then I'll take it from there and see what's happening.
The A to Z of Kent on Access All Areas, presented by Max Barrett with original music by Serkan Kochat. Thanks so much to Anky for coming on the show to share his comedic work.
Hindu god running late for school. He's blue and he's cool. Hare Krishna.
I get it.
Okay. I get it. Yes, that's a perfect response to a joke. I understand that joke.